This is the Inclusion Think Tank podcast, where we talk about inclusive education, why it works, and how to make it happen. Today, I conclude my conversation with Anjali, a parent advocate. As we conclude our discussion, Anjali shares what message she would like all educators and school districts to know about autism. So what are some important messages you would like to send to teachers and to school districts in general about children with an autism diagnosis?
See, I think it's just like a general message. Like, I think we should only look at diagnosis at a point to understand the learning style or to understand how to support kind of a thing. I That diagnosis should not predetermine what a person can learn. So that we always kind of say that, right? Presuming competence, like that part of it. So I feel the part of it is what people don't understand is it's called autism disorder spectrum. It is like, that spectrum disorder is because that it is a spectrum. You have seen one child with autism, you have only seen one child with autism. I have two children and they are my kids, but the similarities are less in their way of learning, in their way of how they are, like all of us kind of. So I just feel like uh, uh, that is one thing sometimes it's missing, that everyone generalizing the individualization. Like people kind of not knowing how that intervention support, they feel that okay, it's support. Like, I'll just give a simple example. People think that visual learners, that is what most of the educators are like kind of more used to, kind of doesn't mean that every child with an autism is a visual learner. You will have sometimes children who are very different. Like, I would say, for my example, for my son, who has like difficulties, like to learn certain things visually because of some of the conditions, he's a very much a tactile learner kind of a thing. So I'm just giving a very specific example there to kind of just to put that thing that they all have very different learning styles. So don't overgeneralize the things. Don't overgeneralize the strategies. Like, we all have like simple strategies and accommodation, and we feel like it's like a magic thing that it will work across the board for anything. And the second thing is like, always look at the fidelity of implementation. It is not always the fault of a child with autism that you kind of judge that they cannot learn. No, it is sometimes like we are doing the same thing over and over and kind of expecting a different result. It's like the textbook definition of insanity, that like you try the same thing and you kind of say, okay, the child didn't learn. Then again, you try the same thing and say the child didn't learn. And then what, you come to a conclusion that the child didn't learn. But like, so there are things, and I feel, I don't think it's a reflection of that you're a bad teacher or something kind of. It is just that you're putting in a little more effort to kind of understand this child, and forgetting that you have seen another child with autism, or no matter for that, another child with another diagnosis. You just look at this child with a fresh eye and meet that child at where he is or where she is, and provide the supports to get, and keep them, teach them. Sometimes they learn at their own pace, but that doesn't mean that you stop teaching them. And don't come to the conclusion that, I have people time after time saying they may never learn that. And I feel, who are we to kind of, maybe I am advocating more because I have two children with disabilities, but if I have a penny for every time someone told me what my children cannot do, right? That's just like, I would have been so so rich if I collected that. But always they have come ahead, like, but I'm not saying that we all don't have to do the same thing. We all don't have to learn the same way, but we still can learn. And I just feel like, just don't stop that thing. When educators' job is to teach, just teach and just try to understand them in that way. Like, so that is one thing I would say, because the time, why I would say that is when I'm sitting at the other end of the table and listening to people, people are always going to talk to me about the deficits. And as a parent, it is personal to me. For everyone else, it is profession, but for me, it is personal kind of a thing. And I feel it depends on the strength of the parent to kind of push back and say that no. And sometimes people will think that you're unrealistic parent for doing that. But I don't have to prove my child's competence for anyone to teach my child. And I feel that is sometimes as a message to educators that they don't have to prove their competence to begin with. You just have to presume that there is. And then that's a clean slate and you go from there. And with parents, you can have an honest communication with us. It is and I see every parent will be more willing to help their children. And I would give a little credit to us parents with children with disabilities. We do it twice sometimes because we have disadvantages in our areas. So we will try to work twice as hard as another typical parent to make it work. So have an open communication with the struggles and how we are working. That helps. And I will tell you that experience because this time I have some amazing teachers for my little one, and I put that word because sometimes you have to appreciate that. I never hear a problem. I always hear a solution. Do you know how good that feels sometimes? Um, it is like you feel like there is someone with you to work with you for your child, kind of. And it is not that my child has changed from that situation to another situation that no, or like magically all his difficulties disappeared. No, but there was someone who is still believing in my child and kind of trying to put that effort, and he's showing results. So if you believe in the child, I think they will definitely show that result. So there is these things. There is I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel to teach these children. It is only that attitude that has to change a little bit. So if that changes, I think everything else is because I went to school now for this one, and I don't think there they were teaching you so many things how to teach and how so many you get learn so many things with their experience. I'm not discrediting that fact, but I think it's all that matters is attitude. The ones who get be the best educators are the ones who believe in their children, and that you have to just trust. And for our children, sometimes you have to put a little more trust because the way they progress might be slower. Um, so you just kind of have to believe them. So I think, yeah, that is what it is. Like presume competence. I just kind of that two words kind of consolidate everything that I was trying to say.
Yes, and um, I appreciate you saying that. If you keep doing, teaching in the same way, and realizing that the student is not getting it, maybe you have to switch it up and implement it and uh, show the material in a different way. And uh, not everybody is the same. Where, like you said, not everybody is a visual learner. Uh, you have to present the materials in different ways for the student to understand and to get the information, but and not focusing on the deficits. Focus on a solution and how you can help the child better understand. I think that was a really those were really good points that you brought up, because it's for me, I can remember being in school and math not ever being a subject that I could ever understand. It just made no sense to me for some reason. And even with the teacher explaining it and going, before school or after school, but when I had another peer explain it to me, it was like, oh, that makes sense. And that's how it was my whole life with math. Like, if I could sit with another student in the class and they could somehow break it down for me, it was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I get it now. But every time the teacher would try, it's like, yeah, that makes no sense to me what you're saying. I don't get it. So there are different ways that people learn, and different ways to deliver the material so that a child, a student is able to better understand, comprehend, and get to learn the information that is being presented. So uh,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for that explanation of it all. And just one last question for you, and that is, as a parent, what advice can you give to other parents who are working with their school districts to help have their student included in the general education classroom?
See, that is the toughest one because there are um, so many things that there are odds against how it kind of. One thing I would say is like persistence and resilience. That is very much a characteristic thing I would kind of say because um like how you get there, because when a diagnosis comes, it is a reality. And I don't think people are doing it intentionally. I mean, maybe on a good side, I'm going to say that way. Maybe they're not trying to do it intentionally to kind of like, because that is what they know better. They feel like we have a separate environment. We can teach all these skills and kind of stuff, and then we'll get them ready to kind of be for the teach them all those skills. But the difficult part that I want the parents to understand is teaching all those skills in isolation sometimes doesn't help you to kind of get that real experience of it. And for parents, like if they wanted to kind of, you need to have a strong conviction of why you want inclusion for your child. So I would kind of say, think of your child when they're going to be adult. What do you want your child to be? With or without disability? Where do you see your child? Go back from there. If you want your child to be there, and I know as a parent, I know where I want my children, and I can 100% say most of the parents are thinking the same line what I am thinking. So from that point, I'm kind of saying is like, look back. If you had to get there, how do you go about it? Do you think that having your child in a very separate environment would help them to navigate everything what you're thinking and get them that if the end of the day, I think there will not be a single parent who say that I don't want an employment situation for my child. Mm, That's what I'm thinking. No parent would think about that. So if you want your child to do a job, what is the skills? What are the soft skills that are required? What are the skills that are required for your child? Maybe that be whatever job you kind of are thinking. And also another thing is like for me as a parent, I was not ready to kind of think that, okay, there are five jobs. These are the only five jobs my child should be doing. No. For me, it was like developing those skills so that they will get there. So if you look at like in some of the separate settings and all those kind of a things, for me, I feel like there is a predetermination of even jobs. There is like, I mean, there are so many blogs people write about like, different F's of like job skills that are available for people with disabilities. I'm not saying any of the jobs are bad, like kind of stuff, but it is like this way. People would say it is food, flour, filth, or all those kind of a thing. It looks like you're preparing your child to kind of do that part. So I just feel like it's not anything wrong, or it's not to be blamed on any of the parents or any of those things. I'm just kind of questioning those thoughts at this point when it came to my children. That's what exactly I'm expressing. That I feel they should be educated in a general education classroom so that their learning increases, be anyway. Maybe math might be a difficult subject for a child. You can have an adapted situation for the child. You can have, I feel like sometimes people don't understand what can be modified. You can have a modified curriculum for your child. You can have a lot of accommodations uh, and modifications for your child. But only thing what you have to be ready for is many people telling you that your child might not be able to learn. Your child is not at the same pace like everyone else. Your child is not ready. There is. these are the things that I've time after time heard. But for my kids, I have volunteered for other families. Like, I have heard that part. It is like, but I think you should kind of maybe hear it through one ear and leave it through the other one of those things which are coming as a deficits, and see if you hear a deficit, you should talk about what can we do about it. So the question should be a solution to what the problem is, kind of. And I'm not saying it is easier. It is always kind of going to be a back and forth, and then kind of trying to understand each other and go. But you have to be persistent. I don't think, and it's not an easy ride, because when you're putting your child in a general education classroom, you have to think that your child will be compared with a lot of kids who don't have a disability. You should be okay with it, because that is where, and I said, should have a strong conviction about what inclusion means for you. For that, the first thing is acceptance that your child is different, is a neurodiverse situation, and your child may learn differently. Your child will learn at his or her own pace, but it should be something that you have an understanding. When you put them in a general education classroom, they should not be that all their disabilities should be gone in 1 minute, and then we kind of get all those things. So I feel like those things should be very clear, where you feel that to be good understanding of your child. You should have a good understanding of your child, so that you can have a conversation with the teachers and all the people, kind of. So I feel, but to have all those things, patience, I feel, is a key, because there will be so many times. And even I mean, I would like to consider myself as a very patient person, but still there are so many times you would not be able to gather it together, because you're always hearing things that will not be, that is like deficits. No one talks about the strengths. So I feel some of them, I will not say no one, because there are people who will still kind of do that. So you should be very, very much, should have a clear vision for that part. And you should have that resilience to go through, persistent every time to go through, and then know what your rights are as a parent. That is something very important. I would tell any parent to know your rights. There is rights for you as a parent in special education process. Know that, because the more you have education and knowledge about it, the more empowered you feel, and you will have the right information, and have the right information, like have the trainings. Have There are so many organizations out there that will give you that parental training and all this kind of stuff. Be involved in something, so that part. But to get inclusion, you should have a strong conviction of inclusion, why you need inclusion. Your why should be very clear, because that makes it much easier, because otherwise it will be like, you get tired. I will be very honest, you get tired day after day advocating. And this is very real kind of a thing, since I have two kids, and two kids are two, like, very different. Day after day, it is tiring process. It's a very exhausting process. You get good teachers, you feel so happy about it. You will have like a system to fight for otherwise. So, and a team. It's not only teachers, there are therapists in it, there are so many people in it. So I would just kind of say, um, learn educate yourself about the process. That will do some part of your job, and then keep your conviction very clear, and then be very persistent about it, and then think what you want for your child. That vision statement, the vision statement that you have for your child, will lead you the way. So, I mean, it looks very easy when said, but no, it is not. I'll be very honest, it is not. In reality, that is not very easy and simple. It looks like that. But it has, I mean, it definitely has its, like, advantage for future. So it's worth a fight. So that's what I.
Yes, patience and persistence and knowing your rights is all of what you said is so important. And um, as you shared, the journey is not easy. It's a long journey, but it does have its rewards in the end. And just sticking with it. And I think um, one of the many important things that you said is, knowing what you want for your child is, so important. And just to, um, to remain focused on that. And that is why, that is the reason why you're going through this journey. And, and the end result will be worth it.
And to include, because I have very young children, so when I'm talking at this point, I think I'm talking about how I see the things. So at some point that changes to what they want. I wanted to add that part because
Mhm.
I mean my kids are younger, so it's all me at this point. And I think it's like they're navigating. But at some point it should be they should also be part of that conversation and how they wanted to kind of navigate these things. So
Yes.
I want to put that too, because that is very important. It's our journey together.
Yes. Thank you so much for this conversation. So excited for everyone to hear this conversation. I know that it will be very helpful to, to everyone who listens, and to offer this, great insight into your story and your family's journey. And so thank you so much for your time today. And I will, look forward to sharing this with everyone.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, and I was happy to do this.
Yes, yes, I appreciate it. So thank you and have a great day. We thank you for listening to this episode of the Inclusion Think Tank podcast. This podcast is brought to you by New Jersey Coalition for Inclusive Education and JCIE. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, and don't forget to follow us on social media at NJCIE. Until next time.